Hello folks, welcome back. Chris in Central Pennsylvania, here to talk today about South Africa and some very serious concerns about the 30th of June 2026. In 2021, after the conviction for contempt of court by the Constitutional Court, Jacob Zuma was sentenced to prison at the Escort facility in KwaZulu-Natal on the 29th of June. I predicted on that day there would be riots throughout KwaZulu-Natal, property damage, and lives lost. What I didn't anticipate was a full-scale revolt inside the African National Congress itself, which played out in the deaths of over 3,400 people officially, probably a few thousand more unofficially. In addition to those deaths, we also saw that the property damage was extensive. What's going on now is South Africans frustrated by the racist macroeconomic policies of the ANC, even though many of the people who are upset don't even recognize that these are racist policies that are destroying South Africa. They are taking their anger out on foreigners. This is not the first time this xenophobic behavior has happened in South Africa. It's common, unfortunately. It is a small segment of South African society, but it is a dangerous segment. Operation Dudela, and now we've got March and March, threatening foreigners to be out of the country by the 30th of June, or basically they'll be hell to pay. It's interesting, because the government of South Africa sat back for years and ignored the xenophobia, the attacks, the looting, the torturing of informal settlements, the murder of foreign nationals. But now it's reaching a fever pitch in which even the President of the Republic had to say something. On this past Sunday, President Ramaphosa gave a pre-recorded address to the nation in which he made some statements that haven't made the situation any better. South Africans associated with some of these movements have defied Ramaphosa, out marching and threatening others in the Boksburg area the very next day on Monday. Some things that he said in this particular speech, he said, secure borders are not a sign of hostility towards other countries, but rather a sign of sovereign and well-governed state. Now, I don't disagree with Cyril Ramaphosa, and that's a sound statement, but the problem is that when Donald Trump says that, his Minister of Foreign Affairs from DIRCO, the Director of International Relations Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, calls Donald Trump the leader of a white supremacist movement. He says that, well, that's actually what Ibrahim Rasool said, but he says that what Donald Trump is doing with the refugee program to get people out is white supremacy. But here's the thing. Trump has created a refugee program for people who are suffering racial persecution. Whites, coloreds, Indians, and even a few black South Africans who successfully come to the United States because of this persecution. These people have been vetted. No matter how many times The Guardian and other media lie and claim that the claims that are being made are debunked, they're full of it. These people have been fully vetted, their background's been checked, and their case has been considered legitimate by U.S. government officials, many of whom are leftists in the bureaucracy. So these fairy tales continue. But the bow began to break with Trump's refugee program announced on February 7th, 2025. Here we are in 2026 with these people threatening foreigners, claiming they're taking their jobs. Now, make no mistake, I do not endorse or tolerate illegal immigration. People must follow the laws, the rules of countries. They must do that. They must adhere to the laws, the norms, the mores of a country and obey its laws. You should not enter a country illegally, and you certainly have no right to start a business illegally or be employed illegally, whether it's in South Africa or in the United States. However, threatening people's lives, burning their homes, destroying their businesses because you have a grudge is unacceptable, folks. That is not how a ordered society works. I've got to pause here. Fikile Mbalula and other South African politicians can falsely claim that South Africans aren't xenophobic, but the actions of some South Africans belie that notion. 5 Mozambicans murdered, 2 Ghanaians murdered recently, and now the exodus of black Africans fleeing Afrophobia in South Africa. The Ghanaians have repatriated now close to 1,000 of their nationals, many of them illegal, they shouldn't be there, but they're running for fear of their lives, not because they're being kicked out for immigration violations. Nigerians have also talked about repatriating their nationals. Malawi has repatriated its nationals. And now neighboring Zimbabwe is taking Zimbabweans to safety whose lives are being threatened by xenophobic South Africans. This is a situation out of control. It's metastasized into a crisis, a human crisis, because of the negligence of the South African government ignoring this issue for years. And Ramaphosa didn't make the situation any better with his comments on Sunday. He said we must end illegal immigration and deal with the social and economic challenges posed by it. Well, I don't disagree, but that's not a sentiment that's going to pay out very well for illegal aliens or legal aliens in the country. We've already seen these xenophobes and these bigots and racists and Afrophobes actually prevent white South African citizens from accessing public health services in KwaZulu-Natal with Operation Dudela, illegally playing the role of vigilante, preventing people they assume are foreign nationals from using medical services. These are crimes and no one was prosecuted for it. In response to this, Ramaphosa has also said that we will not allow anyone to take advantage of this, basically. And this is a threat to those who will comment about what's about to happen here. He said, we will not allow anyone to exploit this problem to destabilize our country. Well, essentially, that's what's happened through your neglect. The country's destabilized because of your neglect. There are people who are vigilantes out hunting foreign nationals now. It's a terrifying experience. Even legal, legitimate people in the country are being hunted down. Zimbabweans fled and got back to Zimbabwe on a bus, even though they had authority to be in South Africa. He said, we're ready to act to protect public safety and safeguard critical infrastructure. I have no confidence whatsoever that Cyril Ramaphosa is capable or willing to do that. This is a replay of what we saw in 2021, folks. The police aren't prepared for this. They don't have water cannons pre-positioned in major population centers or known locations of agitators. They don't have zip ties prepared. They don't have wagons available to cart these people off to prison. This, if it metastasizes and makes the appearance of violence, will be something the police are ill-equipped to handle. They'll call out the army, but the army's already in the Cape Flats and people are still being murdered every day in the Cape Flats. The state has failed in South Africa, and it's failed not because of Jan van Riebeck, not because of apartheid, not because of Donald Trump, but it's failed because of the greedy, pilfering nature and kleptocracy of the ANC, focused more on taking care of itself than taking care of South Africa. And here we are, years of neglect, this is what you get. Ladies and gentlemen, if you live in South Africa, I urge caution as the 30th of June approaches, particularly if you're a foreign national, legal or illegal, but not just foreign nationals. Many of these racists in these movements have threatened white South Africans, calling them Europeans or colonizers or settlers, and threatening to chase them out of the country. This is a very serious problem. Something is very wrong in South Africa, and that very wrong is the ANC and what it's allowed to happen to the bureaucracy, to the condition of the government on its watch. It is time for South Africans to call for calm. But I'm telling you right now, the government is not prepared to handle whatever comes. So communities must be prepared to protect themselves yet again in the absence of law enforcement. Community patrols, barricades in your neighborhoods, closed communities, water in your pools, water pumps to put out fires. You must be prepared. Don't rely on cell phone networks, WhatsApp, and text messages. They will fail you as the networks are clogged and they bog down and shut down. You must have Motorola radios, brick radios to communicate. And you must be prepared with escape plans just in case. Have water supplied, have food supplied. I'm not an end of days person, but I'm telling you that this is a very real threat. Whether it happens or not is up to the behavior of South Africans. It's not up to the conduct of the government. They have no capacity to stop this. They're making no genuine effort to stop it. They have made no effort to arrest people who are fomenting violence. And we are now just days away from the end of the month. A little under 3 weeks. What will the South African government do? Will it protect citizens? It didn't in June of 2021. In fact, the President of the Republic ignored the situation for 4 days before he even mentioned it, basically telling people to wear your mask instead of dealing with the miscreants, the looters, the rioters, the murderers that were running loose in KwaZulu-Natal and also in Soweto. Only after being forced to act 8 days after it began did he jump in his expensive $160,000 BMW, driving his $10,000 suit to the remains of a shopping mall that was someone's life savings and their effort and the jobs for dozens of people, and then take a spade and shovel the remains of their life savings and their sweat and toil into a wheelie bin, pretending he cared about South Africans. He doesn't care about you. He never has cared about you. I care more about you sitting here in Pennsylvania than the President of the Republic does, and that's a fact. Wake up, folks. This is a serious issue, and trouble's coming. Hopefully, I'm not trying to play Cassandra, hopefully it won't happen, but you must be prepared just in case. And frankly, you should have been prepared for the last several years. I caution people to be prepared since 2021 for an exact repeat of this. I hope you're paying attention, South Africa, Mzansi, because the troublemakers are paying attention, and they're tired of the government doing nothing to protect their interest economically. But what they miss is that the ANC's failed macroeconomic policies and its racist, broad-based black economic empowerment enrichment scheme are the proximate cause of your suffering, not foreign nationals. But to the illegals, you shouldn't be there. Best to get out of town before they come after you. What say you, Mzansi, South Africa? Cheers. Take care.